I was told when I was a skeptic by other skeptics that you can't trust the Gospels. They were written so long after the life of Jesus that they got contaminated by legend and mythology and are therefore no longer reliable.
You hear that so often, it almost seems like everyone knows that.
Exactly. It seems a common atheist talking point.
Yeah.
Well, here's the truth. The truth is the Gospels can be dated much earlier than people suppose. And here's how you do it. We know that Jesus was crucified in 30 or 33 AD. We also know that the book of Acts was written before the death of the Apostle Paul. He was under house arrest at the end of the book of Acts. He isn't executed yet. So we know, therefore, because he was executed in the 60s AD, that it was written before then. And there were several events that occurred in the 60s AD that are not reported in Acts that would have been in there if Acts had been written later than 60. So we know that Acts was written probably very early in the 60s, maybe 62 AD. Well, we also know that Acts is the second part of a two-part work. Yeah. The previous part is the Gospel of Luke.
So Luke wrote both books.
He wrote both books, and therefore this came earlier. Luke came earlier than Acts, so we can date it maybe in the late 50s AD. Well, we know that one of the sources that Luke used in writing his gospel was the Gospel of Mark. So Mark is even earlier.
Yeah.
And we know that Mark incorporated into his gospel some early material, including the passage about the passion of the Christ, the crucifixion, the execution of Jesus. There's good evidence that that was taken from a source dated as early as the 30s AD. And remember, we said Jesus was crucified in 30 or 33 AD. Now, we also know that the writings of Paul predate the Gospels. And we know that there are ancient creeds and hymns of the church that report things about Christianity that are embedded into the New Testament that come even earlier, including a report of the resurrection of Jesus, get this, that has been dated back to within months of the death of Jesus.
So much for 2 generations or 200 years or whatever.
When you consider that one of the greatest historians who ever lived, A.N. Sherwin White of Oxford, studied the rate at which legend developed in the ancient world, and he determined that the passage of 2 generations of time is not even enough for legend to grow up and wipe out a solid core of historical truth. Well, we've got much fresher